Have you ever heard of the milk carton campaign? Or have you ever seen a milk carton before with different pictures of kids? If you know what it is, then Milk Carton Campaign will be the hero in our story. This is the story of Bonnie Loman, an extraordinary shining example of a child found with the help of the Milk Carton Campaign for missing children. But before we dig down deep, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to hit the notification bell to get updated whenever a new video is published. Without further ado, let's get straight into it. Have you read Carolyn B. Cooney's young adult novel, The Face on the Milk Carton? It was such a controversial novel when I was younger. It was about Janie Johnson, a 15-year-old girl who grew up with her caring parents and is the protagonist of this story. Janie is horrified one day to discover her picture on a milk carton with the caption, "Missing Child." According to the milk carton, Jenny Sprigg was stolen at the age of 3 out of a New Jersey shopping area. The majority of the novel follows Janie's quest for the facts as she continues to get recollections of people and things from her past that imply her memories aren't what they seem. I was surprised to learn that this novel was frighteningly close to a true story. Bonnie Loman, aged 7 years old, saw her face on a milk box in the 1980s, which started a series of events that led her to her reunion with her dad. Throughout the 1980s, child kidnapping incidents were challenging to solve before the emergence of Amber Alerts, America's missing broadcast emergency response alerts, and GPS monitoring. There has been no means to help raise awareness about these kidnappings, and it took years for the cops to even get a jump start on the investigation. As a result, officials and family members sought to come up with a better approach to inform the public. One of the more creative ideas has been to put the missing child's image on milk cartons. The Missing Child's Milk Carton campaign was created so that anyone who bought a milk carton would obtain information about the lost child. If they know anything, they can phone and inform the authorities. Ad campaigns of lost children were placed on milk cartons in the United States in the 1980s. Images of Johnny Gosch and Eugene Martin, who vanished while distributing newspapers, were amongst the first to emerge. This approach had been implemented by 700 of the 1,600 private dairies by March 1985. Johnny Gosch, a 13-year-old boy from Des Moines, Iowa, vanished in 1982. After getting calls from neighbours complaining about late newspapers, his parents realised something was off early on. Due to the lack of a ransom note, authorities decided not to call it an abduction and waited 72 hours until reporting him missing and launching a formal search. When he disappeared without a trace, he was distributing newspapers on his regular route. He left his wheelbarrow, which was filled with newspapers, on the pavement. The Missing Children Milk Carton campaign simply did not exist when Johnny mysteriously disappeared and his remains were never found. However, Eugene, another paperboy, disappeared just shortly afterwards. In September 1984, Anderson and Erickson Dairy used the pictures of Eugene and Johnny on their milk cartons as such an advertisement. Far more dairies subsequently joined up on the endeavour. In January 1985, Chicago launched a milk carton advertising campaign for missing children. This was accomplished with the aid of the police. Ethan Patz, 6 years old, was among the first youngsters to go missing. In 1979, he mysteriously disappeared while waiting for his school bus. In 1985, his picture was printed on milk cartons. This project received strong support because there was no method of tracing lost children throughout the United States at the time. A guy confessed to murdering Ethan almost 30 years later and also was criminally convicted. Hernandez is accused of kidnapping Patz on his way to the bus stop and murdered him the next day. His remains were never discovered. Given the verdict, the admission seemed pretty guarded. The convicted murderer, who had an IQ of 70, suffered from severe mental illness. Stanley, Ethan's father, worked as a professional photographer. There have been photographs of Ethan all throughout his neighbourhood, in addition to tragic images of the youngster on milk cartons. Ethan's image was indeed displayed on billboards in Times Square. In early 1984, Congress was approved to help finance NCMEC. One of the first steps was to establish a toll-free helpline that individuals could contact when they saw a vulnerable child or could assist in investigating a kidnapping case. The founders of NCMEC are John and Reeve Walsh, whose son Adam was kidnapped and murdered in 1981. Approximately 5 billion milk cartons containing photographs and information of abducted children were manufactured when the campaign began. Regrettably, the overwhelming majority of the youngsters have never been discovered. Regardless, one case stood out. Bonnie Loman, a young girl who recognised herself in a milk carton and was reunited with her father, was one of the lucky ones. Her mother and stepfather kidnapped Bonnie Loman from her father. Hers wasn't a conventional kidnapping case because she wasn't kidnapped by a stranger. On the other hand, her father was able to get her picture on the milk cartons in some way. Bonnie was kidnapped when she was 3 years old. With her mother and stepfather, she resided in both Spain and Hawaii. She wasn't permitted to go out in the open. Her stepfather offered her a little more freedom as she got older. She went grocery shopping with her stepfather one day. She came across a milk carton with her image on it. She couldn't understand the words "missing child" printed over her photo since she really couldn't read. Bonnie's stepfather has been kind enough to purchase the milk carton, cutting out Bonnie's image and stored it for her. Bonnie's stepfather ordered her to keep the image hidden. On the other hand, Bonnie once dropped it together with her basket of toys at her neighbour's house. When the neighbours discovered the photo, they phoned the cops and Bonnie was rejoined with her dad. Bonnie later stated that she was never kidnapped by strangers. She was taken by folks who cared about her, and she might never ever have been discovered if it hadn't been for the day in the local supermarket. During its run, the campaign was subjected to several criticisms. Many people thought it exaggerated the risk of stranger danger, while others claimed it was driven by racism. Some people also claimed that such advertisements were upsetting tiny children at breakfast tables. In research of 800,000 kidnappings of juveniles conducted in 2002, it had been shown that 25% of them were carried out by family members. Many of them were simply children fleeing their homes. Only 7% of the kidnappings were not family-related, and only 115 were archetypical kidnappings. Typical abductions involve outsiders abducting children, holding them overnight and transporting them. It is described as a non-family kidnapping in which a kid is kept overnight, taken a minimum 50 miles, held hostage or kidnapped with the aim to keep the child ultimately, or killed by a slight friend or stranger. The advertisements were also accused of being racially discriminatory. Stand-up comedian Eddie Griffin actually did a program based on this idea. The proportion of children portrayed on the milk cartons appeared white. This was in contrast to data that said the black non-Hispanic children accounted for 42% amongst all non-family kidnappings, although making up barely 15% of the US kid population. There have been some constitutional concerns that hampered the campaign's progress. Furthermore, many people believed that the movement was causing feelings of discomfort to small children. They had to consume food while staring at photographs of missing children. The Missing Children Milk Carton campaign began to decline after the development of the Amber Alert system. Amber Alerts were much more technically sophisticated, relying on smartphone alerts to convey up-to-date information on potential kidnappings. In 2000, a picture of a lost child emerged on milk cartons, one of the most recent cases. Molly Bish, who had gone missing from her lifeguarding work, was depicted in the artwork. Her parents were very involved in raising awareness about missing kids. Molly's bones, however, were discovered 3 years later, just 5 miles from where she disappeared. The Missing Children Milk Carton campaign overall was a failure. However, it did assist in shifting people's minds about kidnappings. There has been no legal distinction between being a kidnapped child and a kidnapped adult when Johnny Gosch mysteriously disappeared. Noreen Gosch, his mother, assisted in creating a law in Iowa that distinguishes between children and adults in missing person instances. This effort also contributed to the strengthening and responsiveness of the Missing Children Assistance Act. Fortunately, with developments in technology, the quicker response by authorities, the chances of finding a lost child have grown dramatically in recent years. The survival rate for missing kids engaged in unsafe environments was 97% in 2011, up from 62% in 1990 as per National Centre for Missing and Exploited Children. Once all missing kids are taken into consideration, the figure rises to more than 99%. With all of those kinds of numbers, I'm glad to abandon the milk carton ad in favour of strategies that genuinely assist parents in bringing their children home. And that is all for today's video. What do you think about this story? Do you think that the milk carton advertisement was not much of a help? How helpful is it to have a device to monitor each kid? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section down below. Before leaving, make sure to leave this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to hit the notification bell to get updated on our future content. With that being said, see you in the next one.